Hey guys, I just recently finished reading the A Song of Ice and Fire series, and since the way I got into the books was through the show, I really cannot believe how poorly Stannis was treated on the show. And like a lot of fans, I watched the show before reading the books, and the way Stannis is depicted on the show, hell, even in the first scene he's introduced, I just kind of had the feeling that he was going to die eventually before even grabbing the Iron Throne. Now, I do think the actor Stephen Delane did a great job playing as his role, but I think it's blatantly obvious the show writers did not like Stannis, because the average viewer, including me by the way, did not really like his character, and I thought he was a religious fanatic who was an asshole. I mean, in the later seasons, the ones not really based off the books, he literally burns his daughter alive, and that made me despise him like most other viewers, and for the right reasons, of course. But after reading the books, where he doesn't do that, by the way, that have been written so far, but which actually differ from the show a lot, especially in the later seasons, which I'm going to make another video on. Stannis ended up being my favorite contender for the Iron Throne. So I think the first thing to talk about is the fact that in the books, he does follow the Lord of Light, and he does do sacrifices. So he's not infallible. Like, he's not perfect in the books either, but Stannis is all about justice. You know, for example, when he was marching through the north to siege Winterfell against the Boltons, his men were suffering severely from attrition, at least his southern men. He actually had northern men as well, but I'll get into that later. But basically, some suggested that Stannis make sacrifices to the Lord of Light, and Stannis was vehemently against it. And another thing he did, which was like a detail left out by the show again, was that after he battled the wildlings and took them as prisoner, he actually cut the dicks off of 3 of his own men who were raping women. So he's all about justice, even if it's his own men. And he's a seasoned veteran on the battlefield that uses amazing tactics. And so when in the show, it's shown in the beginning of season 5 where Stannis approaches the Iron Bank for a loan. In the books, actually, it was the Iron Bank that was so impressed by Stannis' success on the battlefield, they actually sent an envoy to him to negotiate a loan. This is because after Stannis left the Wall, he actually went to several northern lords and was able to assemble a few thousand men alongside his own. So that was way different than what happened in season 5 in the show. People want to talk about how season 6 deviates from the books, especially 7 and 8, but even 5, I mean, even like the Stannis plotline is completely like changed and altered to be like, I don't even know what it is. And the same thing with the Dorner storyline, which was just seemed like a complete afterthought. It's just really sad what happened to Game of Thrones. But basically, after he got the Northern Lords' loyalty, at least some of them, he marched to Moat Cailin and took it back from the Greyjoys, and then he also took Asha captive, and then he marched on to Winterfell, and he was beginning to siege it, but we don't know exactly what happened next because the Winds of Winter hasn't been released yet. But it's important to note that unlike in the show where he sacrifices his daughter before even marching on to Winterfell, he doesn't do that. As a matter of fact, he leaves her and his wife at the wall with Melisandre. He didn't even consider sacrificing his own daughter, nor did he. So he didn't burn his daughter alive in the books. What the show did was blatant character assassination. I don't even know how the show got away with that. I see so many people bitching and moaning about seasons 7 and 8 especially, and obviously those were bad, but I mean, hell, even 5 was pretty bad, especially with what they did with Stannis' plotline. So like reading the books gave me a whole new perspective on the show, and it makes me feel like the seasons past 4 really suck, because not only is Stannis' plotline thrown in the garbage can, but so is the Dornish one. But honestly, that's a story for another time.